Hello dear friends, I'm Dr. Mukesh Parik and you can see in this video a very important book which is published by the Oxford India Paperbacks, Modern Indian Poetry in English, Revised Edition. For first information for you is that this was written by Bruce King, the only writer who is English and writing on Indian poetry in English. So this was a question in the net. Then you can see in this book what he has covered. Look at the content. First of all, the first chapter is introduction. Second is history and publishing circles. Now this second chapter is very important, as you all know that I have been appearing in this exam for last many years and I have qualified it for 16 times. So my major concern in the series of giving you knowledge from different books of mine, that from where they ask you questions. For example, this history and publishing circles, from this book from this chapter you come to know about that what many writers were there who introduced and established Indian writing in English. Because the moment English people went from here after the independence, there were only few people who valued English as a poetry, English poetry or Indian writing in English, translation and all. So one of them was Purushottam Kelal. So, and their publishing houses and those writers who were given importance and recognition. So this history wala chapter is very, very important. The third chapter is poets, their readers and the market. The writer talks about in this chapter, like, you all know that common man does not read English poetry in India. So what was the market? How the market was created? How colonized people, once the English left, they created the needs for English poetry in India, and what were the subject matters? So you know that most of them, the English writers in English writers of Indian English, I would say, they were criticizing the tradition, the orthodoxy, the colonial. Sometimes they themselves were colonial, but they were also criticizing the colonial mindsets. The third chapter talks about all these things. Fourth is towards a canon. Canon means how you establish a genre in the curriculum. So you know that today in India, in every university, these writers are taught. So what were the forces, what were the significant figures, who were responsible, those who established these writers, to be studied, to be analyzed, to be researched in the universities of India. So this chapter talks about all these things. Fifth chapter is poetics and criticism. So very few students know that there are critics also, because when you write a poetry, for example, Wordsworth published poetry with Coleridge, lyrical ballads. But he himself wrote the preface, and in that he established himself as a critic also. So what are the poetries of Indian English and how they analyze, like, why we write it, what are our basic assumptions, what are basic methodology through which we write in Indian English poetry, and how it caters to the need of Indian aesthetics. And the sixth chapter you can see is Ezekial and his influence. And seventh chapter is also about Ramanujan, Patel, Daruwala and Shiv Kumar. Eighth chapter is the poets India. Piradina, Rodriguez, D'Souza, Shetty and Silgado. I am specially reading this particular chapter's title because some of you might not be aware of these writers. Ninth writer is Women's Voices, again a very famous chapter in which he has talked about Kamala Das, D'Souza and Silgado. In 10th chapter, two bilingual experimentalists, Kolatkar and Chitre. Both are from Maharashtra and they were established poets in Marathi and they wrote in English, and Kolatkar won the Commonwealth Prize also. So you can understand the importance of this chapter from net point of view. 11th chapter, it again is a series of experimentalists in Mehrotra and Mahapatra. Mahapatra is from Odisha, and how his poetry revolutionized, the modernism. The first modernism brought about in English writing in India was from Ezekiel's side, and The one who gave it postmodern status was Mahapatra. The 12th chapter is Exile, Ramanujan, Sharat Chandra Kumar, Nazareth and Seth. And the 12th chapter is Return, Parthsarthi and Jasuwala. The book has second part, The Diaspora. Again, a very important writer. You know that in last net there was a question, and before last to last net also there was a question from Agha Shahid Ali, who was a Kashmiri and then he settled in America. So in this chapter he talks about the forces which made them go outside India and then remember India from outside. And in the next chapter, 15th chapter, he talks about the publishing. What were the things responsible for the publishing? The next chapter is the 16th chapter is Maturity. Moraes means Dom Moraes, Piradina, Ramanujan, Patel, Shetty, Mehrotra, Daruwala and Alexander. A very important chapter. And the 17th chapter is again new women poets. Shivdasani, Patel, D'Souza, Sambrani, Dharkar, Divakaruni and Bhatt. Divakaruni is again a very famous writer. She has written a novel recently, The Glass Palace, and she has become famous. She is also settled outside. In the last but not the least, the last chapter is New Poets, Styles and Feelings. And in this he talks about Jeet Thail. You must be knowing about him. One who had published that collection of poems like These Errors Are Correct. Jeet Thail, who also won, for his novel Necropolis, the South Asian Award in Jaipur Literature Festival. And Surendran is there, Nambisan is there, Merchant is there, Rao, Padhi, Khair, Prasad and Ramakrishna. So friends, this is my effort to show you from the in-depth of the books and their contents that how to read, what to read and how you can qualify GRF. You can rely on my notes also because my notes are based on these books and these chapters. Thank you.